We have been lied to. We have been tricked, bamboozled. And guess what? We hate each other for it today.
To the scripts. You're not black, Hispanic, Native American.
Colored.
No,
We've been
you
everything
are more
in the
than
book.
who these
Except
devils say that
we
you
are.
are. Straight from the line of Jacob. Jacob known as Israel. Israel help the light. God said it light will be the one that get the kingdom. The kingdom that rules them all. Kingdom that rules them.
We're talking about the laws of God. That's what the truth is.
Ese pelo, miren, este pelo lana, hermana. Sí. The Bible calls the so-called black man from the nation of Israel.
His commandments, and that's what causes you and changes you from being imperfect to perfect.
Anything that comes out of man's mouth that's not from the Bible is a liar. So I'm going to bring everything from the Bible.
Alright, so what I want to focus on is history really quick. So what he's telling you is that these people on his sign, the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the Israelites. Okay? And yes, the Messiah, Christ, this black man, with white woolly hair and feet so dark it looked like he burned in a furnace, was only sent to redeem Israel. Alright, that's what we're here to teach. But give me Job 8 and 8 real quick.
The book of Job, chapter 8 and verse 8.
This is for you too, brother and sister.
For inquire, I pray thee, of the former age.
Well, Job said, inquire, I pray thee, of the former age. Meaning, look back at the times of old. Consider those things.
And prepare thyself to the search of their fathers.
You must prepare the search of your fathers, meaning your history of your people. Right. So now, real quick, I want to touch one point. Matthew 15:24. So concerning Christ, yes, the Messiah, the Son of God, he was sent to these 12 tribes. Right. So, in the same book that tells us to go search our history, we're going to read about Christ really quick. Read.
Matthew chapter 15 and verse 24. But he answered and said.
So this is Christ speaking to a woman of another nation that was coming after him, asking him for things, pretty much following him around. And this is what he answered to her.
I am not sent.
So Christ said, I am not sent,
but
meaning only
unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
So according to the Bible, who sent Christ? Who sent the Son of God? God. So God said, Christ said, I am not sent by God, but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So let's touch some history. Let's go to Genesis 49 and 1. I want to touch on your history specifically. Alright? Because you said you're Guatemalan, right? We got some books out here I want to touch. So let's get 49 and 1 and let's go into it.
The book of Genesis, chapter 49 and verse 1. And Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
So Jacob, he gathered his 12 sons, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Ephraim, Manasseh, so on and so forth. He gathered his 12 sons to tell them what's going to happen to them in the last days, meaning a future prophecy. Today is the last days is what it's talking about. So read it one more time.
And Jacob called unto his sons and said, gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days.
Okay, so give me Deuteronomy 33 real quick. I want to touch on Zebulon. Okay, so the people from Guatemala to Panama, according to the Bible, are Zebulon. Now I'm going to use some books to reference so you can get some understanding. Alright, because remember, I inquired in you, look at the times of former age and the search of your fathers, right? And Jacob was telling his sons, this is what's going to be your blessings or your characteristics in the last days. So Zebulon, you got Zebulon? 33 and verse 11? No.
17.
Is it 13?
17.
17. No, that's Joseph. Find it real quick.
Maybe 5.
Okay, it's verse 18. Read.
Deuteronomy chapter 33 and verse 18. And of Zebulon.
So of Zebulon, meaning one of the sons of Jacob, Guatemala to Panama, we're telling you that they're the so-called Mayan Indians. So read it again.
And of Zebulon, he said, rejoice, Zebulon, in thy going out, and Issachar in thy tents.
So rejoice in their going out, and Issachar in your tents. Issachar is the so-called Aztecs Aztec Indians, all right? So listen good, listen good. It said, read it again.
And of Zebulun he said, rejoice, Zebulun, in thy going out, and Issachar in thy tents. They shall call the people unto the mountain.
So guess what? They would call the people unto the mountains by shofars. They had horns. They would call the people to the mountains. Is there any more on that?
There they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness.
There they will sacrifice sacrifices of righteousness. Where's those books that I have right here? All right, here we go. So now, we got a book called The Origins of the American Indians. Remember, it says to prepare thyself for the search of thy fathers. Right. So now, give me page 88, I believe. Or you know what? It's before that. You know what? I want this book right here. Give me another one. Another one. Thank you. So, let me find something real quick. So, go ahead and read that again in Deuteronomy.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 33 and verse 18. And of Zebulun he said, rejoice, Zebulun, in thy going out, and Issachar in thy tent.
So we're saying that this is the so-called Mayans and the Aztecs coming together, right? The so-called Mexicans and the so-called Guatemala to Panama. So read on.
They shall call the people unto the mountain.
We call the people unto the mountain by shofar. They would signal to Issachar to come to the mountains. To do what?
There they shall offer sacrifices of righteousness.
They would offer sacrifices of righteousness to God. So now, this is a book called Christopher Columbus and the Participation of the Jews in the Spanish and Portuguese discoveries. So when the Spaniards came over here, these are discoveries that they came across. This is the early 1400s to the early 1700 discoveries that they documented. So we're going to go to page 99. The topic is Indians and Israelites. So the so-called Mayans, Incas, and Aztecs, these Indians, they're going into their history and finding out that they are the Israelites. So I'm going to show you that. Read verse 99 on that highlight.
This is page 99. They also sacrificed first fruits.
So guess what? When they went to the North, South, and Central America, they found these people sacrificing on mountains. First fruits on what?
On high mountains.
Now remember, Zebulun, it says they would call the people to the mountains and offer sacrifices of righteousness. Remember that? Read it again.
They also sacrificed first fruits on high mountains and under shady trees. They had temples.
They had temples. Remember the big temples in Mexico? North, South, and Central America? They had temples. These are the temples it's going into. The temples that they're comparing to Israel and the Indians here in America. So read on.
And carried a holy ark before them in the time of war.
So in time of war, they carried an, what is it? Let's read it again.
And carried a holy ark before them in the time of war.
So now, what did the Israelites do when they left Egypt, when they were going through the wilderness? What were they carrying? The Ark of the Covenant. So guess what? According to history, the Aztecs, the Mayans, and Incas were doing the same exact thing. So let's read on.
They were also like the 10 tribes.
The 10 tribes. The 10 tribes you can read about in the Bible about the northern kingdom of Israel. All right, that's what they're comparing them to. So read on. Is there more?
Inclined to idol worship. All writers and travelers agree, moreover, that there were many Jewish types of face among the Indians.
So many Jewish types of face among the Indians.
The Aborigines of America.
Meaning they had faces of Jews. So now give me Leviticus 29 and 3, or 23 and 9 real quick. So let's go back. Remember, they went to the mountains to offer sacrifices. First fruits, it said. So let's see if that's in the Bible as well. The Indians were sacrificing first fruits. Read.
Leviticus chapter 23 and verse 9. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel.
Speak to the Israelites, the Jews.
And say unto them, when ye be come into the land which I give unto you, and shall reap the harvest thereof.
So in the lands that I gave to you, when you get there, this is what I want you to do.
Then you shall bring a sheaf of the first fruits.
Of the what?
Of the first fruits of your harvest unto the priest.
So what are we reading? The laws of Moses given to the Israelites. That the so-called Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, Cubans, Indians, so on and so forth, were keeping in America. Letting you know that they are the Jews of this Bible. So now, we're paralleling Bible history, Bible prophecy written thousands of years ago, proving who the Israelites are. Do you see that? That's undebunkable. This is, you can go all day with this. Yes, King James Bible. Written by a white guy. Can you prove that? Who? No, that's not true. Give me the Bible dictionary. Not you, not you.
But there's also
Give me the
there's also books that are not in there, like the book of Job, the book of Thomas, the book of Mary Magdalene. There's a bunch.
Okay, I got something for you. All right, here we go. Let me find something. Let's go into the history of the King James, because first we touched some history. We paralleled it with the Bible. So now your problem is the Bible. All right. So give me Bible in here. Got it? Okay. Bible, King James version.
This is the Bible dictionary.
Zondervan's Compact Bible Dictionary. All right. This is a book that's been put together by scholars. So read on.
He authored.
Wait. What is he reading?
This is the King James version. He authorized a new translation of the Bible.
So King James, King of England, he was a black man. If you look it up, you're going to find out King James was a black man. He wasn't a homosexual as popularly taught, but he was a man that had wives and such. And in fact, if he was, a lot of people say he was a homosexual, and in the same Bible that they say he wrote, the law of homosexuality is in there. So let's read the highlight right there.
This is the definition of King James version. He authorized
The highlight.
47 of the best Hebrew and Greek scholars.
Okay, yeah, good jump up, my bad. Go ahead and read that.
He authorized a new translation of the Bible to replace the bishop's Bible.
So King James, all he did was authorize the Bible to be translated. Brothers and sisters, listen good. Listen good. We're reading the history of how did the King James Bible come about. So read that again.
He authorized.
All King James did was authorize. All he did was authorize the translation of the Bible from the original languages. Hebrew, Greek, Latin. He authorized it. Read on.
A new translation of the Bible to replace the bishop's Bible. 47 of the best Hebrew and Greek scholars.
He had 47 of the best Hebrew and Greek scholars
of the day.
Of that day, meaning there is no scholars like there was then, and he had 47 of them come and translate the original language to Old English. So all he did was authorize it. That's all King James did. Yes, there was 47 of the best Hebrew and Greek scholars. So read on.
Of the day were divided into 6 groups.
So they were divided into 6 groups.
3 for the Old Testament.
3 for the Old Testament.
2 for the New.
2 for the New.
And 1 for the Apocrypha.
And 1 for the Apocrypha. So guess what? You're right. There was books taken out. There was 14 books of the Apocrypha taken out of the King James translation. But guess what? We know this history and we're bringing it up. In fact, I want to go into this book really quick. That's the history of this Bible. All King James did was authorize it to be translated. So now, give me 2nd Ezra 13 and 40. I want to touch some more history. That is a 1611 King James Bible. In the early 1700s, the Roman Protestants took out the Apocrypha. Ironically, the word Apocrypha is Greek for hidden books. Yes, exactly. So, remember, God told us in here, if any man take from this book, that plagues that are not written in here shall come upon him. But listen, I want to go into some more history. Remember, this book is not just a book of stories. It has histories, prophecies, and such. Yes, but in the time that it was translated in 1611, the Roman Protestants took this out. 1700s. Why? Because he came out of power. He died. He translated it in 1611, and in the 1700s, they took it out. Different time. Late 1700s. Thank you. Early 1800s. But let's go back into some history. We just read about Zebulon and Issachar, and we went into the explorers of the Spaniards that came and documented that they were the Israelites. So let's get some more on it. 2nd Ezra chapter 13.
2nd Ezra chapter 13 and verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes.
So those are the 10 tribes. Remember it said also like the 10 tribes in that Spaniard journal? These were the 10 tribes, Ephraim on down, this northern kingdom of Israel, which is the Hispanics and Indians. So, read it again.
Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land.
So the 10 tribes were carried out of their own land, out of Jerusalem, and they were taken prisoners into Assyria. This is history we're reading about. This is about 722 BC. All right, read on.
Out of their own land in the time of Osei the king, whom Salmanasar, the king of Assyria, led away captive.
So the king of Assyria, Salmanasar, took the 10 tribes, which is the northern kingdom of Israel. They split from Jerusalem because they wanted to go off into idol worshiping. So God let them be carried captive into another land. Read on.
And he carried them over the waters.
So he carried them over the waters on slave ships. That's right, Hispanics were on slave ships in 722 BC. Read on.
And so came they into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves.
So now the 10 tribes took counsel among themselves. After a time period, the king allowed them, what is the word? Liberty. They allowed them liberty. And so they came together and they took counsel. And what did they do?
That they would leave the multitude of heathen.
They said, we're going to leave the multitude of the heathen. We're going to leave the land of Assyria. We're no longer going to stay here in the land of the heathen. All right, read on.
And go forth into a further country.
So now they said they're going to go forth into a further country, another land. Read on.
Where never mankind dwelt.
A place where man has never been before. So this is history we're reading. The 10 tribes of Israel said we're going to a land where never mankind dwelt. The so-called Hispanics and Indians. So read on.
That they might there keep their statutes.
So they can keep the laws they didn't keep in Jerusalem. This is the point of them going to this land where man never dwelt. Read on.
Which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into the Euphrates.
So now they entered into the Euphrates. It now gives a roadmap. Hold this. They now give a roadmap. Now they're in Assyria. Keep that in mind. I got it. They're in Assyria. Now they entered into the Euphrates. If you see where Turkey's at, Assyria's. See, it says it right there. Syria. So they enter the Euphrates. The only way out of the Euphrates is through the Horn of Africa, the east coast of Africa. So read that again.
That they might there keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them.
God showed them signs in the heavens to guide them through this river. He said he held still the floods because this was a rough river. So what we're reading? Bible prophecy. History about our people. Read it. History that was lost in slavery. As you can see in these signs down here. We lost this history in slavery. So guess what? In 2019, we're going back into these books, we're going into the records, and we're bringing out our true history that we lost. Read on.
And held still the flood till they were passed over. For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half.
So the journey to this land where man never dwelt, it was a great journey. And it said it took them about a year and a half. So now, let me pull this sign back up again. So now, the Euphrates River. It goes out to the Horn of Africa, right? This is right here. So they're saying the journey they took from here took a year and a half to where they're about to go. Keep on reading.
A year and a half. And the same region is called Arsareth.
So now the land that they went to was called Arsareth. You got that right? So now the Bible calls it Arsareth. Arsareth. Let's get the understanding. What's Arsareth?
Bring it out! This is the Jewish encyclopedia.
The Jewish encyclopedia. The scholars put this together to give us an understanding what is Arsareth. Because guess what? This is written thousands of years ago. Read on.
The definition of
going to a land where never mankind dwelt, meaning the land didn't even have a name yet. So in the Bible it documents it as Arsareth, meaning new land. Read.
The definition of Arsareth. The name of the land beyond the great river.
Beyond the great river. The Euphrates River, like we just read. The land beyond the great river.
Far away from the habitation of man.
A place where never mankind dwelt. Read on.
In which the 10 tribes of Israel will dwell.
So the scholars are telling us Arsareth is the place where these 10 tribes would dwell. Far from the habitation of man. Read on.
Observing the laws of Moses.
Remember, the Bible says they did this so they could observe the laws which they did not keep in their own land. The laws of Moses.
Until the time of restoration. According to 2nd Ezra chapter 13 and verse 45.
So now they reference what we just read. They just reference what we just read. Read on.
Columbus, who? Columbus.
Christopher Columbus, just like this book we just read. Christopher Columbus, he came in 1492 and said he found America. But guess what? The so-called Indians and Hispanics were here already. So now, read that again. Who?
Columbus identified America with this land.
What land did he identify it with?
America with this land.
So Columbus, when he came to America, he identified it as Arsaret. Meaning when Columbus came to Arsaret, America, it wasn't Hispanics and Indians, it was the Israelites. That's who those people are. So when Columbus arrived at the shores, it wasn't the people he knows today as Hispanics, it was the Israelites, which are these people right here. So we can go all around all day to find out that this history in the Bible is talking about us. And not just Hispanics, but the so-called blacks, the so-called Jamaicans, the Haitians. These are the 12 tribes of Israel. Give me Jeremiah 17:4 real quick. So now, this is the history that's written in the Bible. And guess what? The enemy that destroyed us in slavery has hid this from us for too long. They taught us white Jesus. They taught us the false understanding of this Bible. We can't even read this Bible and understand it now. But guess what? We're back again and we're going to teach it to our people. So read that.
Jeremiah chapter 17 and verse 4.
This is Jeremiah the prophet, an Israelite. Read on.
And thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thine heritage.
So God told the Israelites, you would discontinue from your heritage. You would lose your identity. You would forget your customs. You would forget your laws. You would forget your God. Understand that. And what?
That thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies.
God said he would cause us to serve our enemies. You understand that? Did that not happen to us? So, why? Why did God cause us to serve our enemies? Do any of you know? Disobedience? That's 100% correct. Give me that in Deuteronomy. So, disobedience to God is why this happened. Does that sound unfair to you?
For us to be under our enemies.
Yes. Let's read it. Let's read it. Deuteronomy 28:15.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 15. But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
So the Israelites, you blackens, God said by Moses, if you would not listen to the voice of the Lord,
to observe to do all his commandments,
to observe and to do all of his commandments, all of them, because in the wilderness we agreed to this. That's what we don't know. We all said, whatever thou sayest, we will do it.
Right.
A contract, exactly. The brother has some understanding. When you make a contract, there is things written that you have to follow. If you break the contract, you get the consequences. So read on.
To observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I command thee this day.
So if we didn't keep God's commandments,
that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee.
We understood at that time that if we broke these commandments, curses would come upon us. You understand that? Does that make sense to you? Let's get some curses. Deuteronomy 28:32.
Verse 30.
Yes, give me 46. Let's get that.
Verse 46. And they shall be upon thee.
So these curses, the curses you can read all throughout the Bible, mainly Deuteronomy 28, would what?
Would be upon thee for a sign.
They will be upon thee for a sign. Just like these signs are telling us we're on King in Vermont, that's Yoshinoya, that this is Carl Jr. These curses will be upon you to let you know you are the Israelites.
Yes,
you understand? Because understand, after 4,000 or 5,000 of years of slavery, you would forget. Remember, Jeremiah told us we would discontinue and serve our enemies. So read that again.
And they shall be upon thee for a sign and for a wonder, and upon thy seed forever.
And upon thy seed forever, meaning a generational curse. Up until the last days, till Christ has to come and break the curse. Alright? So understand that. Give me verse 32.
Verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people.
That was a curse that our sons and daughters will be given unto another people on auction blocks. Given to other plantations. Even up to this day, they're taking them at the borders. They're taking them in child protective services. You understand? This is a curse from God for disobedience to his commandments. Understand that. But give me 1 Kings 8. So with all that said, brothers, We got to understand this is our true history as the sons of Israel. We are the chosen people of God. And this is why we're going through the things we're going through. It's not just because God don't like us. It's because he chose us from the beginning. He told us we should be special. We should keep these commandments. And if you don't, I'm going to punish you.
Now they will see the true men of God. We are not black men, we are the Israelites. Take care of us. And our children too. And our children too. We have repented. How are you? People want to know who's the king.
O nation of Israel, it's time to return to the Father. O nation of Israel, it's time to return to the Father.
Now why they trying to make it so hard to serve God? And why when I say that I'm a Jew it sound odd? For years I've been walking around saying that I'm a black man. I ain't saying that no more, it sounds wrong, man.
This is Bishop Nathaniel of Israel United in Christ. Please subscribe to our YouTube channels. Stay up to date with our latest events, music, and classroom lessons. IUIC plans to continue visiting different countries where this gospel has not been preached before. IUIC needs your help in pushing this truth. So join us. Subscribe to our Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and podcasts, and stay up to date with us. For more information, please visit www.israelunite.org.